Student Chemistry at the University of Cambridge. Sandile, over to you. Be nice, give her a round of applause. Sandile. Yes.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope everyone's feeling refreshed and energized after the coffee break. So we'll have an exciting time. I will just wait for one of my panel people. Shulake, you may come this way. Right, so this panel is on the role of women in New Africa, and I have 4 amazing women here with me. So I'll just call them up so that they can join me here at the front. So first I'd like to call up Hema Dalal. Please come. So Hema she is the co-founder of Womench. This is an organization that tackles gender parity in the STEM field in Africa. She's also the co-founder of WomHab, which is an advisory organization that helps women who are in the STEM field as well. Next up, I would like to call on Mujade Betty Makoni. Is a girl empowerment expert and champion. She was featured as a CNN hero, and she's also the executive director of Girl Empowerment Initiative in the UK. She's an author as well. Next up, I would like to call Shulake Ebega. Shulake is the Executive Director of African Women in Business, and she is also the CEO of She Effect, which is an organization that works with Boko Haram survivors in Nigeria to create amazing products that I'm sure you'll be able to see outside. Lastly, but not in the least, I'd like to call upon Hadiza Tijani. So Hadiza is the co-founder of Philanthropy, which is a giving network for young professionals. She's also a technology expert, and she also was recently named the top powerful 100 women in London. Amazing. Thank you so much. So, the issue of women empowerment is such a complex issue, I'm sure you all agree, but we just want to speak about the progress so far, the problems still at hand, and the solutions that we see fit for how to enable women to take up a usual in a new Africa. So my first question would go to Hema. So Hema, with your experience in working in the state field, right, since the early 2000s till now, what progress have you seen happening over the years in terms of the inclusion of women or young girls in the STEM fields? And what problems do you think are still at hand in such inclusiveness?
Good morning, everybody. It's Auntie here today to share some insights and so we have a conversation around women in New Africa. So speaking at the beginning about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, that's the school that I studied in engineering application. We've been working for around 12 years now in an organization called Womench to basically attract, develop, and retain the pipeline of female women in engineering. And that will start at pipeline work for girls as 6 years old, all the way up to girls industry. So absolutely, we have definitely seen progress over the last 12 years. When I studied, I was one of 5 girls in my class doing chemical engineering. The needle has certainly shifted, but as Monica had said, there's still a lot of work to do with the problems that really exist. And while I am not talking about the STEM ban, I think many of these can be extended beyond just the science and technology industry in the field. On the continent, there's 4 or 5 key issues that really lie at the heart of getting more girls into STEM. The first is really information and awareness, right? So we claim to be living in an age of technology where you put answer to Google and keep up with an answer. But Google is only as powerful as the question you put into it. And if our girls aren't being told that, careers in the engineering space that historically has been very male-dominated, is given an option, why would they be asking about it? So how are we getting this information to them? As an example, in Kericho, in Kenya, there's a village in Kenya called Kericho where huge tea plantations and families go in, especially the girls and women go in and be tea pickers, they pick the leaves. But there's also a girls' school in Kericho where they have the second highest maths and science grades in the whole of Kenya. No one's telling these girls that you don't have to go on and be the peak picker, the leaf picker. You can actually go on and be the engineer, the plant manager that actually converts that leaf into actual tea. So information awareness is absolutely important. And changing the narrative around this is a girl's job and this is a boy's job. The second thing is really around relevance. So there's a number of initiatives on the continent talking about, let's get more girls into STEM, let's get more women doing engineering. And yes, it's a blanket statement, and I am no doubt generalizing. But oftentimes when initiatives are coming in from the West or out of the continent, you have these projects which are doing robotics and drones and, let's talk about satellite development. How relevant is that for girls on the ground where they perhaps are working over and above their school job to just make sure there's food on the table? Is developing a drone important to them? What's relevant in the context of getting more girls in our continent, in our villages, so that they can appeal and see that they can make a difference if they go into science, technology, engineering, and math? And it's really been about knowing the audience. I mean, engineering as such has changed the industry as well. If you close your eyes and picture engineering, you think about the grease monkey, the hard at the Industrial Revolution, very little. However, today problems are around food security, climate change, population growth, all community issues. And that doesn't any longer require the physical brute strength one is associated to it. But again, no one's telling these girls that as an engineer, you don't have to be a big, strong guy. Around that is also access. So let's get girls excited about engineering and STEM, but let's not set them up for failure. So if they are excited about to study, what means are available for them to go on and study at tertiary, for example? Is it funding? Are there other conduits that let girls in the continent? With oftentimes when they pay the local society, the boy child is given preference. So if the family of 4 and only one child can have education, it's typically the boy child. So what platforms for access are existing? That's a critical problem in terms of don't get them excited if there aren't avenues in which they can pursue this. And then, of course, once they are in, and this is a serious problem still today, especially in the middle more, the lack of role models. So if you've never seen anybody who looks like you, who sounds like you, who came from your school, who's an engineer working on a plant, why do you think that's possible? And that's our role. So panels like this are fantastic and events like this, but what are we doing to actually showcase? So are you going back to your village, are you going back to your school to say, hey, I started with you, I can do it, you can do it. And last, certainly not least, it's actually one of the most important, the cultural narrative. The narrative of the content is still, as a girl child, yeah, get educated, but don't be too smart, you look like a husband. Go on, get educated, get married to have your 2.5 kids, and go serve your husband. And again, no doubt, we're tongue-in-cheek and extremities, but that's what we've been told. And until the cultural narrative, you can do all you want to empower the girl child to go and study. But when she goes back home and she's ostracized for that, you're setting up for failure again. And hence, it's not good enough to just empower the girl child, but how to win society and culture start addressing the role of women in society. Right, thank you so much.
Right, so we've had a lot of points, major problems, access to funding, getting girls into schools, the lack of role models. The key area is also the cultural narrative, which I would like to extend to Mujari Itamaponi in terms of that. You know, Africa, I think, is a continent that's really dependent on the cultural norms, the social norms. And I think most of it are extended out negatively towards women, especially in governance and how much of an influence they have in decision making. Take, for example, my country, Zimbabwe, where we used to have a vice president who was female, right? This was on the national scale, yes, we had a woman in governance, but on the low level, we never had a woman who was like a chief or things like that. So is it a matter of we're just trying to showcase, but it's not really inherently in the culture and the social norms? So can you comment on that? How much of an influence does our culture have in the involvement of women in decision making?
Thank you so much, and I just want to give a little bit background about me quickly so that you appreciate what I'm going to say. I'm a rape victim in a society where they thought if you rape a little girl, you can be rich. I'm coming also from a society where there's a belief that if you pull the genitalia of a little girl, then when she grows up, you can imagine, at 6 years, you get your genitalia, literally taken out of you so that you prepare for a man you don't even know. We are talking about a very complex situation of patriarchy, where we are put at the back seat. You are constantly reminded to take your seat. And then when we come to situations like this, it's not more of the bedroom or the boardroom, it's actually people, young women, we have been socialized to know the bedroom and the kitchen more than the decision-making boardroom. So we are not dealing with a minor issue, we are dealing also with something like as embedded as racism, as embedded as slavery, where these beliefs are actually criminal, but part of disguised culture. It's known to beat a woman, it's known to embarrass her, it's known to body shame her so that she doesn't feel comfortable on stage. It's also known to go into a shop as a parent and you say, I will buy a doll for my daughter and then I'll buy a plane for my son. The discrimination is not done at United Nations, even though we are trying to address this problem at United Nations. These are harms in our families between brothers and sisters, fathers and daughters, mothers and fathers, that sometimes they tend to devastate lives at a much early stage. Now when I'm looking at the cultural perspective, I can say there is an element of criminality in our culture that we are so slow to acknowledge quickly that is urgent, that 25 million women are moving around in this world with no genital organs. 25, literally a knife on your vagina. No explanation, you have to be clean. So I think we haven't even addressed all those genitalia that was taken off women. We had leadership that has stood up to say what for. If we are not doing this to boys, why are we doing it to girls? And then we have the whole issue of leadership. Sometimes when we come up with 50-50 number on paper, then go to reality, women are being shamed. Sometimes we go give a speech, and the next thing you are there, you are cartooned. And even if with not only Africa, you go as a strong woman like Megan, you try to make a public appearance, your dress is going to make news headlines more than your speech. So our dresses are the ones which are culturally accepted. Which dress are you putting on? So we are saying when we are doing gender analysis, let's try to go into deeper cultural norms things that we are saying, okay, it's a woman suffering, let's leave it like that. But you know what? We had a case in our country, Zimbabwe. A president raped, sodomized a boy. Nobody on that day could sleep. It was noise through and through. Why do you violate a man? I think that was the mentality. But when a baby who was a day old was raped, the norm was a woman, you can do that to her any age, any time, as long as that is a woman. So I can say to a larger extent, the loss of human potential from these atrocities, human rights violations of girls, and we start cutting the culture is to cut their lives very young. Let's look at the whole continent. Little girls, how can we watch anybody marrying a child who is only 10 years, and then we go about our normal business as AU? How can we watch as we have all these little girls in the Western African countries, being taken into bushes? How do you make an engineer out of a woman whose body parts are not there? So there is something that we have normalized about a wrong culture, where now we must be open to each other to say, this is long overdue. Each to your country, to your culture, and let's really confront them and say, this is illegal and this is criminal. This cannot meet in the 21st century. So that's where I want to end to say, we have killed the African girl right from birth. Some are even married, some are given to churches, and you can see with the portfolio of churches that are coming and prophesying, in a society with such decay, we must admit that gender inequality and gender violence is reality. It continues to devastate lives, and we are losing as a continent. I think that's where I want to actually, evoke you to just see that this is a critical matter.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really like the point she said, how can you make an engineer out of a girl who's lost her genitalia? So it starts here. It's not really about getting girls into STEM. This really started the root of it, and what's happening with your family. So she's given us a background really of how it starts at a young age. I would like to address this question to Artisa. So you are a technology expert. You are in the a male-dominated field, right? So I'm pretty sure there are some cases, I would say, of sexism, right? Or cases that you have gone through, or women you know have gone through. So really, what problems can you say are still at hand in such areas, and how women are perceived taking part in such areas?
Great, thank you. So I actually find it a bit hard to follow what we've just heard, because I think that the cultural norms across the continent start in our homes. And for me, as a British Ghanaian woman, my cultural experience started in London. My parents migrated from Ghana to UK to study. My uncle was doing his PhD at UCL. My dad came to train as an accountant. But my dad actually studied computer science and maths at Ghana. So the foundations in my home were really that technology is for everybody. That we should be able to use the tools of technology to do whatever we like. I was known for helping my friends at school with their ICT homework. I made my first website at 15. But I'm not technical. I know amazing engineers that can do amazing things, But I think that in order to get more women into STEM, into tech careers, we need to make sure that at home and within different environments that is encouraged. I am privileged enough that was encouraged for me, and the sector in the UK and globally has also encouraged that. So it is definitely difficult to start a business, and it's harder to start a technology business because of all of the different capital requirements needed. Something that I mentioned at a Ghana tech event in London recently is that one of the issues when it comes to getting technology off the ground in emerging markets across the world is that our infrastructure, until we fix our infrastructure, it's very difficult to compete without, when you're trying to keep the generator on, you're not sure if there's going to be lights out, whilst your competitor in another region or another country is able to keep on working 24 hours a day and keep going. And so when it comes to what I think is needed for women across the space, I think we should acknowledge that there is a huge diaspora community that want to contribute to what we're doing on the continent, and we should stop asking them, are you really Ghanaian? Are you really British? Those kinds of subtle cultural aggressions don't help anybody. If you look at other nations, you don't necessarily really get someone saying to a British American or a British French person, are you really British? Are you really French? They just kind of get over the conversation. And so I think one of the most important things when it comes to tech entrepreneurship is being open to the fact that people are different and they will always be different. Yes, I have sat on the 39th floor of Canary Wharf Group in One Canada Square in London and been asked if I'm a receptionist. I was part of the management team, but it's the reality of the fact that many people are just not comfortable with the fact that there is a young black woman running a fintech accelerator in the heart of London. However, it's my job and my duty to make sure that I act with the highest level of class, highest level of decorum, so that they realise that they can't walk into a space and say to a decision maker, are you a receptionist? And I got it recently at a Microsoft event. This week is actually London Tech Week in London, and someone asked me, the security guard asked me, "Please, are you here to work?" No, I'm not here to work. I'm here to attend the event. And he also asked the same person behind me. And so these kind of subtle aggressions throughout my business career are things that you just learn to field. I would say that it's important for African women to take lessons from other women that have operated on the global stage, such as this Serena and Venus Williams. I have watched these two women for my entire life, and it is important to see the aggression that they have had as stellar tennis players, internationally acclaimed, regardless of where they go, they get it. So it's almost inevitable that we will also get it in the technology space and in the entrepreneurial space. And so I think one of the best ways to deal with it is to talk to others and been there. I am very blunt with anyone that says to me, "Geez, I'd like to go in the tech industry." I'm like, great, but just here is what you need to be prepared for, because a lot of people don't want you to do that. But you have to struggle forward to do that. And I would also say making sure that you use intergenerational knowledge is important. So I use the knowledge from my mum, from my sisters, from my lessons from my grandparents, lessons from those that have been in the UK and Ghanaian tech community for a long time in order to help myself move forward. It is tough, that's it. It's going to be tough, but hopefully the groundwork we do for this generation will make sure that the next generation have it easier. And so that's kind of the perspective of the fact that yes, women can go into tech entrepreneurship, but it's going to be tough. I took the business route, and put me in a boardroom and I will execute a business deal as I need to. But I got taught that by other people, allowing me to be in the boardroom at the same time.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so I guess you're saying basically we need to have models that we need to look up to, people who have managed to penetrate into such fields and have come out successfully, and also maybe to develop the level of I am here because I deserve to be here, and nothing about the color of my skin or my gender excludes me from anything. All right, thank you. So my next question will go to Sholape. So Sholape, in your experience working with African women in business, I know that there are a lot of challenges associated in conducting business generally. But what specific or unique challenges have you seen in working with women, especially on the grassroots level, in doing business in Africa or externally?
Good morning. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sholape, who has been introduced. Yes, I'm the founder of African Women in Business, and this was an initiative which we started because we realized that African women don't necessarily do business with each other. London is a melting pot. It's probably easier for you to find someone from Zimbabwe, someone from Kenya, someone from Ghana, someone from Zimbabwe in London. What do we do with that? Oh, hello, mana, hello, and against that. So we decided to plug this gap and connect African women to actually do business with each other, because there's so many opportunities in the homeland, and if we don't take the advantage, nobody's going to do it for us. What are the challenges? I don't want to belabor the point. Most of them have been raised here today. Religious practices, patriarchal societies, and all of that. But what I want to focus on is the development of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs solve problems. There must be creative convergence, whereby we all know what the problems are, but we must identify solutions to be able to liberate ourselves. We can talk till we go blue in the face and the nose, but if we don't create the solutions ourselves, nobody's going to hand over the mantle. Nobody's going to. And I have found that, yes, the rhetoric is good, but until we're in places of position where you can actually do what you want to do, and you're not being dictated to by a society which is patriarchal, you're a housewife, you don't have the income, you don't have the wherewithal, you don't have the education, as we all know, you're not going to be heard. If I say I want to buy this building today, and then I have to consult my husband or consult my father or consult, if you don't have the economic power, which a lot of African women have, they're not going to move forward. And how are we going to harness this economic power? I believe strategy is never linear. When we find the solutions, I believe we must start with ourselves to implement the solutions. There's all the talk about African women, or well, women being their worst enemies. I don't believe that, because when women see other women they can connect with as role models, you can work better as a team. Because if you don't have anything to lose, why fight for anything? But when everybody has a stake in moving this forward, then I think we can move together collectively as a team, and it's not I against you or you against me, or what's she wearing or what's she not wearing. It's about what we're trying to move forward. I don't like that tag feminist, but we must move forward this agenda. Otherwise, we will come here and we will talk, and what happens after the talk? There must be action which is translated into sustainable projects and sustainable businesses to be able to hear our voices. Because without the money, we can't move things things forward. And African women are not, they're not even encouraged to trade. Why? Because they're financially excluded. And when we talk about financial inclusion, a lot of people think it's, oh, the rural woman who we're trying to, get to use with PESA and all of that. No, there are projects in this room today that need to be actioned and implemented. I would hope that when we leave this place today, we will take concerted actions into identifying projects that we can support and move forward. Those are the actions that are going to bring the barriers down. Because we all know what the problems are. We all repeat these problems, we know them before, what we need is guidance and support and mentoring in how can I move this from an idea into a sustainable business. Who can I go to? Who can assist me? Who's been there? All these women have been in places where some of us have never traveled to. How can Betty help me? How can the problem I'm facing now, how can it move my own agenda forward by what they've done? So I really think, for me, that, there are very few women in leadership positions. Why? Because it's difficult to question the narrative when someone else is driving it. If you're not the one driving the narrative, you can't tweak it. And how are you going to drive it? Develop networks, develop support systems, develop peer support. I don't like to use that word peer mentorship because it's then for someone who's a subordinate, someone who's the superior. Peer support must be included because that's the only way we're going to get higher representations and votes. I know what opera says. I'm not uncomfortable when I walk into the room and I'm the only woman there. I've learned to own it. When I walk into a place and I think, okay, yeah, same old, I'm the only one here. I make sure they remember me. Not by what I'm wearing, but what is in my head. There will be opportunities that will come back, and we need to go into these places where, it's not customary to go into. When people say, why are you going? I say, why not? Why not? We haven't come to the UK to look at bridges or to pick peanuts. We've come here to make an impact, and until we start making an impact from what we take away today, we're going to come back here next year and talk all this touch, for want of a better word, and we will move the agenda forward. So I'm hoping that today we will be able to begin some kind of sustainable support systems with all these phenomenal women here. Because if we don't, we've wasted Cambridge Union's time, their money. We could be having a nice day out in the park. But until we develop the solutions ourselves, hand-holding, what can I do for you? What do you want to do? I want to leave here today knowing that there are projects in this room. If I can't solve them, a phone call away, there are people. We must develop these networks because we can use all the buzzwords. I can present, some fancy slides and all that nonsense. It's just going to stay in your notepads. If we don't actually, it's not going to happen. So let's make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Alright, so I think the message is action, action, action. What are we going to do for the women in Africa who do have these ideas but they need to implement them? How are we going to connect, especially with those in the diaspora? So before we take questions, I would just like to ask each person 3 points, 3 quick sentences. What actual things, tangible solutions do you think we should have in our respective fields? I'll start with Emma in the field of STEM. I know you have the hashtag 1 million girls in STEM in partnership with UNESCO. So what exactly do you think we need to do to move forward to include more girls and young women in STEM? 3 points, go.
No question. So yes, the first point is really around, and it ties to what you said around, there's issues beyond just education, right? So getting girls into, we have a campaign to get 1 million girls into STEM, and that's just an entry point for them to participate in economic activity. Because once women are economically active, once they're financially independent, they're more able to lead violent relationships, to protect their daughters, to have a voice. So I think that's really, really important in STEM and other fields. So that extends across all of them. But getting women economically active and financially independent so that at least they're not dependent on their spouse or a male, whether it's brother, husband, or somebody else, who they are, and I use the word unfortunately, that's subservient to. The second thing, and speaking of men, and I believe that men have to be a part of the conversation. I applaud the organizers of this event. Like, the first thing I noticed when I go to events is the gender diversity on panels and the like, and we've had great diversity spread. However, women empowerment is not a woman's problem. And so the men who, that's great actually here, but asking ourselves, what is my role in this? In Africa in particular, the role of the African father, not just in raising our daughters, which I think goes without saying, but how are we raising our boys? As an engineer, my manager was male, his manager was male, my mentor was male. Who's raising those men to help me succeed in my career? And yes, I took the banner of STEM, but this extends so far beyond. There's a fantastic quote that says, I think it was Gloria Steinem who said, we're starting to raise our daughters a lot more like our boys, but few have the courage to raise our boys like we do our daughters. It's okay for men to cry, it's okay for men to be emotional, it's okay for men to empower and, enable women coming beyond, whether it's their wife or whether it's someone working for them. So I think men have to be a part of the conversation, especially in fields, in industries that are so male dominated. So think about what you will do. And then the third point is very much, especially again in male dominated fields, it's a self-worth journey. And I think Lisa spoke a little bit about this as well. People will only take you as seriously as you take yourself. When I started my organization as a female entrepreneur,